Two DEA agents, Ray and Manny, storm a suspected drug house. Guns out, voices loud, they make everyone surrender. Inside, they find drugs, guns, and stacks of cash. But here's the twist. Ray and Manny aren't DEA. They're running a scam, carefully planned and perfectly executed. They call themselves hunters, preying on low-level drug dealers, taking what they need, and vanishing without a trace. And since it's Ray's birthday, this score is a solid gift. Ray then visits his adoptive mother, Teresa. She was his dad's girlfriend who took him in after his dad went to prison. She is struggling financially and needs 10 grand. She pretends to forget his birthday but surprises him with a cupcake and a small money gift, which he quietly returns. He's not in this game for himself. He knows she needs it more than he does. But when Ray's old friend Rick suggests a new job outside the city, things start to shift. It's risky, but with Teresa's financial struggles, possibly health-related, Ray is tempted. Manny, who's planning to move in with his girlfriend Sherry, isn't thrilled. For him, this is just a side hustle. Ray attends an AA meeting that night, sharing his struggles with staying sober. As he talks, we cut to him staking out the house Rick recommended, clearly torn. That night, he gives in to his demons. He drinks. He smokes. And he starts talking to someone who isn't there, Marlette. We saw a roadside tribute to her earlier. Now we learn what happened. In a flashback, Ray and Marlette are seen drinking, smoking, and driving when they're suddenly hit. The crash kills her. He's been haunted by it ever since. Ray and Manny decides to burgle the house. Rick is jittery. They give him a gun, telling him they have never shot anyone and do not plan to. It's just to scare them. Inside the house are 3 people. They subdue one, but when a woman enters with a gun, calling out for someone else, Jack, Rick panics and shoots the subdued dealer in the head. The woman fires. Rick shoots her and the last dealer in a bloody mess of chaos. Why did they bring Rick again? During the chaos, chemicals spill. Fire spreads. Rick is dying, bleeding out in the kitchen. Manny wants to run, but Ray insists on finding the money. He heads upstairs and discovers a bag full of cash under a bed, while Manny picks up some bottles of aloe vera gel he saw. But by the time they return, the woman they shot is gone. They douse the place in acetone and flee. But in their escape, they drop their radio. Later, someone picks it up. A voice on the other end gives a warning. Leave the drugs and money by the roadside, or die. Ray and Manny choose to run. When the emergency services arrive, they find the woman shot, Mina, alive. She's taken to the hospital and awaiting surgery when some men come to see her. Turns out, Mina isn't just any dealer. She's DEA. And she knew these guys weren't part of the force. She warns her team to keep her cover and scribbles, "Somebody else knew about our deal. They had badges, and they've started a war." What began as a clean hustle just turned deadly. Ray and Manny kick things off by torching their van and tossing anything traceable into a river. Running isn't an option anymore, so they decide to stay in Philly and figure out who's hunting them. Ray heads to see Teresa and spins a story about winning a radio contest, a fake trip to Atlantic City, just to get her out of town. She's skeptical, but agrees. That's when we learn the $10,000 she asked for last episode wasn't for her. It was to help pay a lawyer to get Ray's dad out of jail. Ray agrees to meet with the lawyer himself, even though he still believes his father's guilty. Next, Ray visits his contact son, where he finds out the aloe vera bottles they took in the last job, full of liquid meth, smuggled in bulk, then crystallized later. And Ray realizes they didn't just hit any lab, they hit a conversion lab, which is why things are now blowing up in the news. No one knows they did it yet. Son warns Ray that Rick may have set them up. He just got out of prison, took them straight to this lab, and now he's dead? Sounds suspicious. Worse. People might come for Rick's friends next. Ray and Manny are hiding out in a storage shed when the puzzle pieces click. Rick had been locked up with Ray's dad, Bart. So Ray visits Bart to press him for info. What did he say while inside? Bart isn't forthcoming at first, but Ray pushes hard, even bringing up abuse from his childhood Bart doesn't remember. Eventually, Bart admits he spoke up during one of their AA meetings in prison. A guy named Danny Loebsack overheard recently paroled, and he runs with a crew called Eden's Gardeners. Same crew Rick ran with. Ray and Manny suit up in their DEA gear and head to Danny's house. But they find a massacre instead. A body in the tub. Another on the floor. A bloody message loud and clear. Manny immediately calls Sherry and tells her to run. Then, a shootout erupts. Ray hides under a car and shoots one attacker in the leg, only for another to shoot the tire, nearly crushing him. Not gonna lie, this scene cracked me up so bad. The way they make high-tension scenes funny is wild. The duo survives, killing one biker while the other's wounded. Ray tries to question him, But when the guy fires at Ray, Manny puts him down. He grabs the biker's phone, which keeps ringing. At a gas station, they clean themselves. And the car, covered in blood and stress. Ray answers the call, pretending to be the biker. On the other end, that creepy voice from last episode. The voice gives him a target address, and it's Ray's own house. Ray panics and rushes there to grab Teresa's dog, thinking the thugs beat him to it. But no, the mess? It's the dog. Ray grabs his stuff and flees to the storage lockup. The phone rings again. This time, the voice calls him Ray. He threatens Bart in prison, and then Manny. Ray tries to offer the drugs and money back, but it's too late. The voice doesn't want money. He wants blood. Everyone Ray knows is now a target. Ray calls Manny, no answer. He heads to Manny's house in a panic. On the way, Teresa calls, Ray's missed the lawyer meeting. No one's home at Manny's, but outside, Ray spots two bikers. One gets out and gives him a chase. Cue another chaotic scene. Ray sprints through alleys, jumps fences, and finally gets the guy flattened by a truck. The second biker nopes out. But the danger? Still very real. Police find the crushed biker's body. Later that night, he meets with Michelle Taylor, the lawyer Teresa mentioned. Ray breaks down emotionally. Michelle, thinking it's about Bart, comforts him and reveals Bart may qualify for compassionate release due to terminal cancer. Only problem? Teresa still owes the rest of the retainer. Ray says he'll pay it. 2 days after the robbery, Ray is on edge. Manny's gone, completely off the grid. Ray's rattled and knows the options aren't good. Manny either ran, relapsed, or is dead. Desperate, Ray informs Son, but Son wants no part of this now. Ray has too much heat on him. Ray isn't about to walk away, though. He's determined to find his best friend. His lead? Malik, a pawnbroker who confirms Manny showed up yesterday but won't say more. Ray suspects Manny bought a gun and heads straight to his place. Ray searches every corner. Teresa calls that she's coming home, even though Ray told her not to. She ignores him. Eventually, he finds a small package taped under a drawer. It's an engagement ring. So that's what Manny bought from Malik. Bikers track Ray to Malik's shop. Malik tries to hold out, but they torture him. He gives up details, Manny's proposal plans, Ray's dad being in prison, but he doesn't know where Ray is. They shoot him in the head. Jack, the undercover DEA agent killed during the lab raid, is being honored. A full funeral is held, and his death hits the department hard. The drug syndicate Ray and Manny robbed has a name, the Alliance. The team uncovers the old plates from Ray and Manny's burned van, and the gun they dumped in the river. The serial number leads them back to the house the duo robbed in episode 1. It belongs to a kid named Jerome. Back to Ray. He returns home and is shocked to see Teresa's already back. She's angry, suspicious. Has he relapsed? He reveals everything that happened and that there are people looking for him and would hurt the people he loves. Teresa gives him a dirty slap. Ray goes upstairs to cool off, but hears a noise coming from inside his closet. He opens it and finds Manny hiding inside. Manny admits he panicked. He thought about running back to Brazil, but in the end, he decided to hide in Ray's closet. Ray's just relieved to see him alive. The two agree. If they're ever separated again, they'll meet at the storage unit. But just then, Teresa gets a call. Bart's been stabbed in prison and taken to the infirmary. Teresa guilt-trips Ray into driving her to see him. Ray stays in the car outside. But soon, the bikers show up. Turns out, they had Bart stabbed just to lure Ray to the prison. Just as things are getting tense, Michelle knocks on Ray's car window. He quickly suggests they leave for a nearby bar to talk. At the bar, Michelle tries to convince him to go back and see Bart. But they're being watched. The bikers followed them and are waiting to strike. Luckily, a couple of off-duty cops are drinking nearby. The bikers hold back. For now. As soon as the cops leave, Ray and Michelle quickly follow them out, using the officers as cover. But what they don't know is that the bartender already called 911, sensing something was about to go down, and that tip reaches the DEA. Ray eventually visits Bart, who's furious, stabbed because of Ray's actions. There's no love between them. Ray resigns to his fate, hugs Teresa and tells her he loves her. He tells her to double-check their stuff while he checks the car, so she's in the prison long enough for the bikers to do what they want to him. As soon as he steps out, the bikers close in, but right as it's about to go south, Philly PD swoops in and arrests them. Ray's stunned. Somehow, yet again, he's made it out alive. The DEA looks into who the bikers were targeting. Mina suggests checking the prison's visitor log, and one name stands out, Michelle Taylor. Turns out she used to be a prosecutor. Jerome gives the DEA a solid lead. They get a sketch of Ray from him, and when Mina sees it, she immediately recognizes him. At the storage unit, Ray fills Manny in. It's divine intervention that saved him today. But there's a new problem. The car Ray used to take Teresa to prison? It was Sherry's. Now it's compromised and has to be discarded. Manny says Ray has to be the one to tell her. Ray breaks the news to Sherry, who absolutely loses it, shouting in Spanish and telling her mom to call the police. Ray tries to soften the blow by handing Manny the engagement ring he found earlier, encouraging him to use it. Manny drops to one knee and proposes. Ray steps out to give them some privacy, and that's when he sees the box outside Manny's door. A note is taped on it. Give us our shit or more heads will roll. Inside the box, Malik's severed head. Manny walks out holding drinks to celebrate his engagement. Ray tells him there is nothing to celebrate. They are fucked. 4 months before the robbery, Mina and Jack share an intimate moment before heading out to a stakeout. Jack explains how the drug trade has been completely changed by COVID. With borders closed and smuggling routes blocked, cartels turn to hiring internally, relying on third-party contractors to get shipments like liquid methane through. This particular shipment was called the Stash for the East Coast. Mina and Jack had already infiltrated the operation by the time Ray and Manny raided the house, working their way up the ranks to figure out who's really running the show. 3 weeks after the robbery, Mina is still recovering from her injuries, but her vocal cords are badly damaged. At a briefing, she confirms their team still doesn't know who runs the alliance. Determined to finish what she and Jack started, Mina wants justice and revenge on Ray. The DEA discovers Ray's dad is represented by Michelle Taylor, once Rick's lawyer too. Since Ray is elusive, they approach Michelle, inform her about Rick's death, and reveal Ray's activities. She, however, shuts them down. With their homes compromised, Ray, Manny, and Teresa hide out at a motel. Teresa secretly video calls Ray's father, now out of the infirmary, while Ray monitors the streets through his home security cameras. He spots a suspicious car, the same one from an earlier chase. He realizes the only way to handle the situation is to find out who these people are, so he sneaks up and places a tracker on the car. Later that night, an alarm goes off, and Ray rushes to Manny's place. He finds Manny in bad shape, high and trying to numb his pain with heroin. Manny is overwhelmed by guilt, especially about leaving Sherry behind, who's been texting him non-stop. Ray notices Sherry's social media activity is a disaster. She's sharing her location constantly, making her a target, and could lead the bad men to their doors. Ray confronts her, urging her to be more cautious about what she shares online and stay away from Manny for now. As they talk, Manny texts Sherry, asking her to meet him at a church where he plans to confess his sins. Back at the motel, Ray rings Michelle, who demands answers. Ray doesn't reveal anything, and she suggests they meet in person. The tracker leads Ray to the Alliance's base, which is shockingly unprotected. Ray calls Sun for help, who directs him to a guy named Cyrus, who could take care of the bikers. But Sun has his own problems. The mysterious figure has found him and sends a deadly message by killing his dogs and hanging them in his backyard. Later, while taking his kids to school, Sun is arrested by the DEA. They question him about the Alliance, but Sun lawyers up. The DEA uncovers that Sun used to be involved with a cartel, the Thang organization, and helped take it down with the DEA, earning himself immunity in the process. At the church, Manny refuses to leave, wanting to confess before his wedding. Ray argues that confessing all that's happened to a priest could get them in trouble. Ray eventually convinces him to leave, and messages from Sherry come in, who has clearly agreed with Ray's sentiment and decided to keep her distance for the time being. When Manny realizes this is Ray's doing, he is livid, and as the pair start arguing, they're interrupted by Cyrus, creepy-ass dude, the guy Sun was talking about. Ray offers to share the site's location, but the man has done casing places over Zoom videos and wants to see it in person. Despite their unwillingness to do so, Manny and Ray are dragged to the place. Cyrus isn't alone, though, flanked by 2 unnerving guys who paint their faces like clowns. Ray thinks Cyrus and his team are just there for recon and would come back to finish the job, but they are horrified to discover that the man has brought reinforcements and plans to attack the base immediately. He grabs some guns from his truck, calls in the reinforcements. Molotov cocktails and gunfire erupt as the 2 friends try to escape. The base isn't as unprotected as it seemed, though, as snipers in the forest take down the attackers. Ray and Manny barely survive the onslaught. While fleeing the scene, Manny notices a grenade in the car. When he and Ray finally stop at a secluded place, he tells Ray to get out of the car and leave. It takes a while for Ray to realize what Manny is trying to do, but even when he sees a grenade in his hand, he refuses to leave him like that. Manny lays into Ray, telling him he turns everything into shit, and Sherry is his life and redemption. Ray tells him, "You are not going to kill both of us over a bitch, and if you're dying, we are both dying together." He finally talks Manny out of killing himself, takes the bomb from him, and throws it into a bin before it explodes. In the aftermath, both are injured. Ray is shot in the shoulder, but manages to clean himself up and meet Michelle. But when he arrives, agents are waiting. Michelle warns him, but Ray no longer trusts her, and the betrayal shows on his face. It doesn't seem she betrayed him, though. More like they listened to her call or something. Flashback, years ago. A young Raymond watches helplessly from the back of a police car as his father, Bart, is brutalized by cops. They eventually let them go after finding nothing, but Bart is left bloodied, with a nasty gash on his head. He tells his son that this is what the police do. They beat you down and keep you there. Unbeknownst to them, Ray was hiding the drugs for Bart all along. Present day, 6 weeks after the robbery. Manny's on a redemption path, attending church meetings and working the steps to get clean. Ray, on the other hand, is too jaded to believe in redemption. While discussing redemption, Ray reveals a newspaper clipping confirming that Rick killed a DEA agent, none other than Jack. There are 8 different articles confirming Jack's decorated status, making Ray and Manny's lives even more complicated now that the feds are hunting for a cop killer. Ray also suspects the stolen cash is marked and tied to the organization hunting them. He thinks it works like some kind of membership or tracking pass. Manny thinks he's losing it. Still determined to uncover the truth, Mina visits Jack's wife. Tension hangs thick in the air, hinting at an affair between Mina and Jack. Mina doesn't deny it, nor does she apologize. She's only interested in Jack's things. She finds burner phones, hidden cash, and a photo of herself and a girl. Using one of the phones, she contacts a mysterious figure using the code on the cash she found for verification. Looks like the codes on the money are how they identify Alliance members and communicate. This leads her to a shady meeting at a bar with one of Jack's old contacts, a man who reveals Jack had been working both sides. Jack was in deep debt and fed intel to the cartel in exchange for cash. And yes, he used Mina to do it. She was a pawn in Jack's game. The contact knows about Ray too, and proposes that Mina work with them to bring him in. She threatens him, but the man just smirks. He's way ahead of her. Teresa is fed up with hiding out and tries to leave the motel. Ray stops her and shows surveillance footage of a package left at her doorstep. He suspects it's a bomb. He stakes the place out, only to discover it's a harmless fruitcake from a neighbor. Ray receives a call from Sun. At first, it seems like a check-in, but in reality, Sun is being forced by the DEA to arrange a meeting so they can arrest Ray. But Sun, still loyal, slips a string of numbers into the conversation. Ray instantly decodes the message. Don't talk. He says nothing. Still reeling by Michelle's near betrayal, Ray goes to see her. She comforts him, even strokes his hand, and eventually they end up in bed. They open up. Ray talks about the scam, how someone got hurt, and how it's eating him up. Michelle admits that ever since switching to defense work, she's been emotionally numb. But Ray changed that. For the first time, she's seeing someone actually try to be good. Then a 911 text comes in from Manny. As a form of atonement, Manny drags Ray to the farm, where people died in the shootout. He wants to pay his respects and apologize. They don't know which graves are which, so they ask Amish workers where the Leob sacks are buried. The Amish begin to surround them, suspecting they might be with the bikers. Once it's clear they're not, the community opens up. Turns out Caleb and Harrison, the men who died, weren't innocent. They were selling meth and trying to recruit from the Amish. They had a courier, an Englishman, but due to the pandemic, he couldn't move the money as planned. Caleb divided and marked the cash, hiding his portion in the barns. But the courier never returned. The Amish were disgusted with the operation, refusing to accept the tainted money. One of the men shows Ray a bill from the marked cash, identical to what Ray had. Manny finally sees the truth. Ray was right all along, and now they're in deeper danger than he thought. Shattered by Jack's betrayal, Mina teeters on the edge. Alone with a gun in her hand, she dials the suicide hotline. At first, it seems like she's already made her decision, but the calm, competent voice on the other end surprises her. It's someone who genuinely listens, and for the first time, Mina lets her guard down. The man talks her down, and she doesn't go through with it. Later, Mark tells her she's cleared to return to work, though he's clearly skeptical about her mental state. But Mina's focus is crystal clear. It's Ray. Teresa texts Ray that she's gone back home, saying, "There's a surprise waiting." Never seen someone this stubborn. Concerned, Ray drives back and surveils the house. Just as he starts to relax, a man emerges from the shadows and shoots him in the leg. As the attacker moves in to finish him off, the surprise reveals itself. Bart, newly paroled, returns just in time to save his son. He kills the attacker, drags his wounded son and the corpse into the garage, and locks the door. Ray, while bleeding out, still has time to snack on that damn fruitcake he picked up from the porch. After saving his son from the ambush, Bart checks the shooter's body, then immediately shifts gears to patch Ray up. But Ray's barely hanging on, delirious, slipping in and out of consciousness, clinging to his gun, and refusing to call 911 or go to the hospital. Bart cauterizes the wound, and that shock jolts Ray back to reality. Briefly. Unknown to them, the DEA is listening to everything. Bart's ankle monitor doubles as a listening device. The feds let him out of prison on purpose. Their mission? Use Bart to get dirt on Ray, prove his ties to the cartel, and finally close the case. They're convinced Ray isn't working alone, and with his criminal record, it wouldn't take much to lock him away. But Mina doesn't want that kind of justice. She knows Ray's guilty, but watching him die slowly in his apartment isn't justice to her. She opens up about her own daughter's death from a fentanyl overdose, believing it was just Percocet. As Ray drifts deeper into delirium, he hallucinates his birth mother, high and unresponsive, triggering memories from a dark past. But even through the chaos in his mind, Ray senses the surveillance. He urges everyone to watch their words, convinced they're being listened to. Teresa wants to rush him to the hospital. Bart blasts music to muffle the conversation. In hushed tones, he tells her the man killed in their garage was a cartel cleaner, and outside, cars are already watching the house. Then Manny arrives. Being a recovering addict, he knows how to keep Ray awake, but Bart blames him for dragging Ray into all of this. Manny claps back, accusing Bart of failing his son. Bart tries to patch Ray up with glue, but it's not enough. Manny calls for help despite Ray's protests. Ray accuses Son of being part of it all, but Manny thinks it's just more paranoia. Son brings his mother, Xuan, a former medic from the Vietnam War. She quickly stabilizes Ray but finds something worse. An older, untreated chest wound from the biker base assault. It's infected, and the pus has entered Ray's bloodstream. He's being poisoned from the inside. Despite Swan giving him fluids and antibiotics, it's clear. Ray needs a hospital. Suddenly, Ray disappears into the attic with a gun. Convinced his death will protect everyone, he plays Marletta's mixtape. But instead of finding peace, the music enrages him. He shoots the tape recorder. The others think he shot himself. Manny breaks down the door to find Ray alive, but the noise has drawn attention. A sniper fires into the attic, missing, but the neighbors call the police. Things are escalating fast. The DEA hears the gunshot and finally agrees with Mina. Someone's trying to kill Ray. Mark orders a car sent to his house. Son, Manny, and his guy step out with guns to find the sniper, but he has vanished, and the street is eerily quiet. Manny, still high, walks into the street and tries to reason with an oncoming car, thinking it's the cartel. He offers to return everything, asking for forgiveness. But it's not the cartel. It's Michelle. They reunite in an emotional moment until she sees Son and his guy with guns. She's rushed inside to safety and discovers the horrifying sight of a barely conscious Ray. Ray suddenly recalls the code he'd written earlier when Son called, and realizes that the $2 bills aren't valuable for their money, but for a secret code they contain. He tries to tell Manny this cash is their only bargaining chip, but Manny doesn't take him seriously. With time running out, Bart takes the wheel and drives Ray to the hospital. Son, his guy, and Manny follow. But something's off. The streets are too quiet. Back at DEA HQ, Mina pieces it together. This is a trap. She pushes for a tactical unit to be deployed to the hospital immediately. And she's right. As Bart pulls up, a full-blown gunfight breaks out. Amid the chaos, Bart confesses something huge. The feds brought him out of prison just to surveil Ray, and a corrupt agent, Jack, was secretly working with a cartel, and Ray was purposely directed to the barn to kill him. This means that someone used Ray and Manny to get rid of Jack without drawing any suspicion on them, and Rick, the third man in their crew, was likely planted to make that happen. Manny risks his life to carry Ray into the hospital while he cries out for his dad. On the stretcher, Ray sees Marletta's ghost, urging him to let go of her, symbolizing the need to release his guilt. But then Mina's ghost appears, telling him, "We're not done yet," pushing him to hold on and keep fighting for his life. Outside, the car Mina sent arrives and the bikers scurry off. But then, Bart is cornered, and he is shot. Bart is dead, and we still don't know who pulled the trigger. But in the aftermath, Teresa searches through Ray's things and finds a scrawled, cryptic note in his journal about the money. Ray and Manny are arrested at the hospital. Even Son isn't spared. With Ray in treatment, he's placed under constant surveillance. Manny? He's sent straight to prison. Teresa's the only one still on the outside, left to untangle the mess. But when she steps out to walk her dog, the biker gang shows up, surrounding her. Before anything can happen, DEA agents move in and arrest them. Teresa heads to the hospital next and visits Ray, but she's wearing a wire. She lets Ray know subtly by touching her chest mid-conversation. As they talk about family, she cryptically brings up the numbers. The DEA isn't getting anywhere with Ray or Teresa, but they do get a crack in Manny. Still detoxing and emotionally fragile, he freezes when they mention Rick Staley. His wife refuses to see him, but his mother believes in him. She tells him Sun's generation is not loyal, and that if his wife enjoyed his drug money, she shouldn't be leaving him, but Sun says she's just trying to protect the kids. Sun confesses he used to trade info with the feds to keep his operations safe, but this time, they wanted him to turn on his friends. And he said no. Now he's paying the price, with an impossible $10 million bail. Mina's not done. She wants the DEA to go after Ray and Manny as the heads of a drug trafficking operation. She argues that their fake raids involved 3 people, enough to classify them as an organized ring. They stole drugs and sold them, which makes them Class 1 traffickers. Marchetti agrees and pitches it to his boss, Mark. Sherry visits Manny in prison. She's pregnant. She pleads with him to take any deal the feds offer. She wants him to choose them, their family, over loyalty to Ray. But Manny refuses. The prison guards toss him into a cell with a biker gang member to break him. It backfires. Manny fights back and survives. To protect himself, he allies with a Hispanic gang, just trying to make it through the night. Ray hears about Manny possibly taking a plea deal, which would make him a witness against Ray. Michelle urges Ray to think logically. Maybe he should turn the tables and pin it all on Manny. But Ray shuts that down fast. He tells her the only thing that matters is Teresa and her dog. That's it. On their way to court, Ray and Manny argue. Ray assumes Manny will betray him to save himself. And that breaks Manny's heart. All he ever wanted was for Ray to trust and respect him, for once. But Ray still thinks Manny would choose family and freedom over their friendship. Later, Ray calls Teresa and cryptically says, "It's time to check the numbers." Mina visits Michelle, hoping to strike a deal. The DEA's plan is clear now. Exaggerate Ray's charges to use him as bait for bigger fish. But the murder charge is still front and center, and much harder to shake. Back at the hospital, Ray hears a familiar voice on the intercom. It's the biker boss, the same one who contacted him after the meth lab raid. He threatens Ray again, warning that if he doesn't give them what they want, he'll start taking people from him. One by one. Ray panics. He stumbles out of bed, only to find the hospital floor eerily empty, and his Marshal dead. Manny calls Sherry. He tells her the gangs are coming for him again. He asks her to buy a nice dress, and to save the rest of the money for their son. You can feel it. He knows he's not making it out. Sherry begs him to hold on. Says they can run, live as fugitives if they have to. But Manny simply says, "I love you." He's given a mysterious gift. We don't see what it is. Not yet. Son is also attacked in his cell. 2 cartel men try to kill him, but he's ready. He takes them both down with a knife. Sherry races toward Ray and Manny's locker. It looks like she's the next target in the biker boss's sick game. Ray is on the intercom, begging the voice to take him instead. But when the locker door opens, it's Teresa. She's safe. She and Sherry hug. And just as you exhale, thinking maybe they've made it, Michelle steps off the elevator. Her face says it all. She tells Ray, Manny is dead. We cut to Manny's lifeless body, a syringe in his arm. Was it suicide? Was he murdered? We don't know. Michelle breaks down. Ray starts to hyperventilate. The grief. The guilt. The betrayal. The fear. He falls apart completely. And just like that, Manny's gone. This episode shattered my heart. OMG, not Manny. The feds finally arrive, and Ray is taken to the ambulance, but the voice still isn't done. DEA agent Mark Nader wants Ray to work with them and help set up a meeting to trap the voice. But Michelle warns Ray not to fall for it. Not until there's a solid deal on the table. Manny is laid to rest. Sherry sings at his funeral, a heartbreaking moment that hits everyone hard. Ray is granted permission to attend. Outside the church, Marchetti and Mina watch. Marchetti notes this doesn't look like the funeral of a drug kingpin, because it's not. It's the funeral of a friend, a brother, a man trapped in a game he never signed up for. Back in the hospital, Ray begins physical therapy. Michelle visits, and Ray finally opens up. He needs to find out who set them up and who killed Manny. Marchetti confronts Sun with security footage. When Ray was rushed to the hospital, Sun helped protect him. Why? He also reveals that Sun's house has been on the deconfliction database for 6 years. That's where DEA agents register properties to avoid interfering with undercover ops. But Sun's name isn't listed, which means someone inside the DEA is protecting him. Marchetti wants answers, but Sun stays silent. So Marchetti threatens to throw him back in, with cartel inmates. Ray is stunned when Mina visits him in the hospital. At first, he thinks he's hallucinating. But when she speaks, it all comes flooding back. Ray breaks down, overcome with guilt, and begs for forgiveness. They agree. They've been clawing to survive. Now it's time to fight smart and survive on their own terms. Nader is still hell-bent on charging Ray with homicide, even though the only witness, Mina, doesn't want to testify. Bill McKinty, special agent in charge of the Boston DEA, disagrees. He believes Ray could help expose something much bigger. They need to listen, not pressure him. Mina watches through the blinds, smiling. This is exactly what she's been urging Nader to consider. Ray agrees to cooperate. He says he was manipulated. Someone in prison tipped Rick off about his side hustle, and Ray was used to eliminate Jack Cross. The fake meth bust was staged to look like a DEA sting. Ray hands over everything. Photos, names, phone numbers. He even brings up the marked $2 bills. He believes they're a code, maybe coordinates. Ray and Mina start working together. Ray suddenly realizes the numbers might actually be coordinates. He believes Jack made up the code and hid it in the bills to protect himself, knowing the alliance was closing in. Then the voice calls. He wants the $2 bills and demands that Ray bring Sun Pham with him. Marchetti grows suspicious. Why does the cartel want Sun? Sun finally confesses. He knew about the shipment before the meth lab robbery. The DEA sets up a plan. Use Ray and Sun as bait to lure the voice out with full tactical backup. Before the operation, Ray says goodbye to Michelle. Their bond was brief, but it meant everything. She helped him open up and feel seen. At the bridge, Sun waits for instructions from the voice. Ray tells Mina they should follow the coordinates instead. He believes they'll lead to something even more important. And they do, straight to an Amish graveyard, where a headstone bears the odd number from the bills. They dig and uncover Jack's evidence locker. The voice instructs Sun to strip naked and bring the codes. A red laser dot moves across his chest. It looks like he's about to be executed. Ray and Mina discover the truth. Jack wasn't the crooked agent. He was gathering evidence against them. Jack had identified Billy McKinty as the voice. Realizing the bridge meeting is a trap, Marchetti hurries to warn Mark, but McKinty kills him and the other agents before he can. At the bridge, cartel gunmen open fire, not on Sun, but on the DEA agents guarding him. Sun's mother and his associate arrive to pick him up. She thanks McKinty and says, "This is goodbye." McKinty replies, "You were my best tenant." On the drive out, Sun leaves a voicemail for Ray. He confesses that Jack was becoming a threat to his operation, so he sent Rick to Ray. But Rick was only supposed to scare him, nothing more. He hoped the DEA would quietly bury the case, but Mina kept digging. Sun apologizes for ruining Ray's life and admits that now, he's the one on the run. McKinty ambushes Ray and Mina while they're examining Jack's evidence inside a trailer. McKinty had been manipulating the deconfliction database for years, shielding cartel properties, including Sun's, from federal interference and collecting a cut of every deal. He sets it on fire, intending to kill them. Then he confesses. He laced Manny's drugs. That's what killed him. He also murdered Ray's father. That's the final straw. Ray snaps. He refuses to go out without taking McKinty with him. He dares him to stop hiding and face him. Then Ray rams the trailer straight into McKinty, and it explodes. It looks like the end. But Ray and Mina survive. In the final scene, they're buying coffee. Ray listens to Sun's voicemail and smashes his phone on the ground. They're free. Whether they'll return to normal life or keep fighting from the shadows, the show leaves that up to us. Ray went from fake DEA to exposing real corruption inside the DEA. What did you think of the show and the finale? Drop your thoughts in the comments.